I'm Anne-Marie Pryke, and I am your host for today's Second Act Mamas podcast, a place where women in the second act of their life can come together to talk, learn, admonish, support, laugh about everything that this stage of life has to throw at you. So please help me welcome today's guest, Natalie Blanton. I've known Natalie for a very long time. We met at Trinity Fitness, I don't even know how many years ago.
It's been a long time.
She is a badass trainer. Yes. So Natalie is a wife. Oh, how many years?
27 years.
27 years. Wow. Okay. Mother of two grown children. She's been a PT for 24 years. That's awesome. And then you were an exercise specialist before that?
For 3 years before.
So is that what did you go to school for exercise, like physiology, and then you went to PT school after that? Is that how it went?
Exactly. So at that time I had my undergrad in health science and exercise physiology. And then worked in cardiac rehab and physical therapy for 3 years at Baptist Hospital.
That's cool. Did you like cardiac rehab?
I liked it a lot. Yes, I liked it. I'm more like the PT side, but that's when I saw how much the PTs were like helping more so than the exercise specialists. So went back to school and got my master's.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to start with some rapid fire kind of questions. Okay. Okay, so when going on a date with your hubby, do you choose a romantic candlelit dinner or Netflix and pizza?
Wow. This season of life, Netflix and pizza.
Okay, yeah.
We just did that.
We
were like, are we old? Yes. Let's just have this pizza and Netflix. So yes. Season of life has definitely changed. I used to always be like wanting this like to go out and do stuff.
Sure.
Now I can so appreciate we can both sit on the couch. We can sit on the opposite couch. I'm like,
what's your go-to show right now? Do you have one?
Well, right now my husband controls the remote. And so we watch Alone. So it's like, you're out in the wilderness, and right now it's in Mongolia, and each person is settled out by themselves.
I do know that. So my husband and my daughter love that show.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's really cool just to see how
it's to see how long they last, right?
Yes. Some people have been like 75 days or something like that. I just love seeing like the raw of mentally, like how people can sustain that. That's truly mental.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, a lot of it's physical in the eating, but the mental part.
Yeah.
Tap out.
And then we're eating pizza watching them.
Put my shoes up. Going, it's a little chilly in here. Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Yes.
So when going on a trip, do you pack your whole closet or do you travel light?
Oh, girl. Whole closet.
Whole closet, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm the person that, I really needed a pen. I have it. Like, it's really bad. Like, I end up, like, taking massive, I'm learning. And especially when the girls aren't here, I do it more for the girls.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like they needed something, but I've been so funny. It's like I pack everything.
So I've always packed everything because it's a running joke because I never know what I want to wear.
Okay.
So I pack my own closet. But I just went away for a women's retreat this past weekend, and it was the lightest I've ever packed in my whole life. And I was like, oh, a sweatshirt probably would have been handy. So whatever, I may do. But
did it work for you?
It was fine. Yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
But yeah, I was like, oh, I probably could have used X, Y, and Z, but
it didn't bother you.
But it didn't bother me. Like, it's fine.
You're recovering.
Yeah. So what is one aspect of motherhood you find the most joy in?
Wow. One aspect of motherhood. I think right now are the genuine, because my girl's being gone, the genuine them texting me unprovoked.
Oh, I love that.
Like my girls would always like come talk to me and stuff, but we were 90 miles an hour, which is something that I would go back and change. But I love getting just a random text from them and just, hey mom, miss you. I love you. And they don't want a conversation. They're not looking for me to call them and go, do you have an hour to talk? It literally just in that moment, they thought of me. So I mean,
oh, that's really special.
It's sweet. And those are things that mean everything to me.
Yeah. Like what mother doesn't want that?
I know. And it's funny because other little things, but that is just like, that gets me.
Well, and so to encourage you, I think that speaks volumes to the years and years and years of groundwork that you laid as a mother, that is a possibility now, right?
Correct.
So that's on you.
Yeah, well,
that's good.
The fact that they listened, and God is very kind.
God is so kind.
He's so kind to my screw ups.
He's so kind. So what's one aspect of motherhood you find the most challenging?
Motherhood. Shutting my mouth.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's funny because at Trinity Fitness, we'll do group prayer. And every once in a while, like, I'll be like, for me to shut my mouth or to know, have wisdom of when it's time for me to speak, how short to make it, and when just to let it flow. I have a whole lot of information that I want to tell my girls,
but they don't necessarily want it.
No. And so I need to learn to be quiet.
Yeah.
I need to learn to be quiet.
So same. I am too verbal. I've said that a gazillion times, but I know it's true. I'm too verbal. And part of it is like, no, what I have to say is valuable. Like in my own ego or whatever. But so that is one thing that I am in the process of learning is when to speak and when not to speak and when to be like, okay, that's what we're doing today. Okay. Like,
and watching my face, because I will even, there were times that I've been quiet and the girls are like, but you want to say something. Cause then I'm like, so making my face match.
Yeah. I don't have a poker face.
No, but I'm learning to be I don't know. Yeah. It's a process.
Yeah, it is. I just finished a book. I think maybe we mentioned this, and I've probably said this on so many podcasts, but I think it's a great book. Doing life with your adult children.
Read that.
Keeping the welcome mat out and your mouth shut. It was the most practical, helpful book.
100%.
And he's a believer. So it was also from a faith-based kind of perspective. It was a super helpful book. I recommend it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you know who gave that to me? It was a woman who has quintuplets.
Really? Whoa.
She had come up to me and she was dropping donuts off at our youth group. And she said, we started talking and I was teary-eyed and I said, I'm not really ready to talk about things that I'm dealing with. And she said, I want you to read a book that I just read. And I was like, okay, cleared myself up. And I know she's got quintuplets. They're now 27 years old. And I went home and read it and I was like, oh my goodness.
It was so helpful. Because I feel like sometimes those books are more theory, but there's no practical part of it. I'm like, how does this play out in real life? Like show me real life situations. And it was almost all practical.
Yes.
Yeah, I recommend it. I thought it was a great book.
Yes.
And the importance of you need to be quiet. You need to keep your mouth shut. And only when they invite you into that, their situation, life, relationship, whatever, do you have permission, right?
100%. Yeah.
That's hard. That's hard as a mom.
It's super hard.
Yeah. So what is one new skill or hobby you have always wanted to learn?
One new skill or hobby I've wanted to learn. It's funny. It's something I'm enjoying now, and I've never enjoyed reading.
Oh.
So I've had to do so much reading for school.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so in reading to me was hard because I have this internal dialogue going on and I'm trying to read and I'm like, but the other day, and you didn't say this right, or you still have to make lunch and groceries. But now I actually am enjoying it. And it's weird because I've people who know me really well and I'll talk about a book and they're like, you read a book? And I'm like, yes, I love you too.
Whoa!
But I'm actually enjoying it.
That's cool.
And it's really cool. To me, that's big.
I've rediscovered reading probably within the last year or two. And I've always liked to read, but in stages of life, there's just no time, right? And by the time you do have time, all you want to do is go to bed. So, I've rediscovered reading too. And I like it. But it's more fiction than anything else, but whatever.
What do you think we do when watching on television? It's fiction.
You know what? I knew I liked you.
It's the same thing.
I knew I liked you. Okay, so when launching your kids, is it Freedom at Last or is it Sobfest?
Oh, Sobfest.
Really? Oh. Both times?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And you think you got it under control after the first one. And I'm like, oh, I know what I did wrong. I know what I said that I did wrong. And life's okay. And then it just was like, boom, boom. Yeah. So they're two different personalities. So there's things that I missed of the two different. And then when one left, I just went, oh, okay, you're gone. Okay. And that other kid went like deer in the headlights. And so I really had to do healing afterwards. And it really sounds stupid, like healing. Like I was hurt. But it truly, part of that book, mourn that part of your life.
Yeah, the season of life is over.
Yeah.
And that
a new one comes.
A new one comes in. Mm-hmm.
So it's, So it's Sobfest, and it still is. We drop off, and I always know at FSU where there's a area where we walk out to say goodbye to my daughter, and it's a cubby of a stairwell, so we can both hug, and I can still teary eye and not embarrass the stink out of her, and then I clear up and then I walk out.
And then you start to cry afterwards?
Not as much anymore. Not as much anymore. It's been a year. This is completes her first year.
So she just finished her freshman year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. So what is one symptom of perimenopause, menopause that you weren't prepared for?
Ooh. Mood swings.
Okay.
Like I'm not an angry person. I'm not, yeah. And I don't think I was quite moody before, but it was like, you're chewing too loud. I can hear one nostril where there's a third of a partial airway block. Like it was stuff like that I finally was like, oh, that's ugly and that's on me. And that was both towards my husband and towards my girls. Like, you're going to wear that today? And they're like, it's a short and a shirt. And I'm like I didn't like the way things they were dressing in.
Huh.
It was modest or if it wasn't, it suddenly wasn't what I thought they should have. Yeah.
That's funny. So so you're more aware of it now. Before it was like what it was, but now you're aware of it. Do you think it's gotten better?
I think it's gotten better. I am more aware of it and I'm learning, in the years to keep my mouth shut.
Sure.
But it doesn't bother me like things like people, somebody breathing wrong or chewing wrong or something like that. It doesn't hit me the same way. So I do think that some of that hormonal stuff is not as bad.
Sure.
I don't know if that's the easy way to get out and go, well, I didn't change how I perceive it. That is still part of my walk with Christ and stuff like that. But yeah, it's gotten better.
That's good.
I'm not an angry elf.
Yeah. Oh, you're an angry elf. You must be from the South Pole. Favorite. Oh man, that's good. Okay. So in our pre-interview, we were talking about a lot of things, and I feel like, and probably, this is probably true for any woman that I'm interviewing. I feel like we probably could have gone in a lot of different directions. Just age, season of life, wisdom, experiences. You have a lot to talk about and share. But one thing I think would be helpful is, so you have launched both girls.
Yes, ma'am.
Both girls are in college. So you are in that stage, so looking back, what do you think are some of the biggest highs of launching your girls?
So and I don't know, looking at the different things, there'll be things that the girls will do. And through their high school years, I was telling them things and I felt like they never heard me.
Oh.
They weren't wasn't sinking in.
Yeah.
Like they just didn't get it, or they just were like, you're stupid.
Yeah.
But as they navigate things on their own and letting them go, I can see things that they're doing that aren't because what they want to do, but because they've heard some sound advice.
That's good.
So, and not everything. So we definitely have pitfalls, but I was like, oh my gosh, somebody listened. Like I wasn't just speaking in for no reason. So, which I do that sometimes, but that's just really, really sweet. Cute. Cause I was thinking about the fact that, we've always talked about being wise with your money.
Yeah.
So Hannah was in her first year at UNF and, Sammy was still in high school. So Hannah was coming to the end of her dining dollars and dining swipes. And she's my very frugal, black and white, very structured. And she had some money left and it was not going to go to waste. So she calls up Sammy and says, come on up here. Let's go through and get chips and stuff like that so that when we can use it all, but we have to use it right up to this time and had it. So I thought it was so cute. Well, Sammy has now come to the end of her year, her swipes and stuff. So she's calling me going, so I only have one more. And she goes, to watch my money, I've bought a pack of mac and cheese and I can eat that for 3 times. And she goes, I'll be in class. She goes, and I'll get really hungry and I'll remember I don't have swipes, but I have a list on my phone of what I do have at the dorm. And I'll get excited about that. Okay, I've got chips or I've got, and I love it because me, I'd have been like, oh, I got a credit card and I am door dashing everything for every meal. But they're putting some sense into that financial,
that's good.
It's good. Hilarious. It's food.
Yeah.
And I love it because I'm thinking, honey, I'll buy what you want.
Sure.
But she's going through in her own way. And I'm like, good girl.
That's great.
So it was really cute.
That's awesome.
It's little things like that.
And I think parenting, it's not always about the big things. It's about the little things too.
Oh, yeah.
It's those, I call them God's love notes to us
I love that.
Oh, wow, they were listening.
Mm.
Okay. So I feel like it wasn't a complete waste of my breath to say that one particular thing a gazillion times.
Correct.
Yeah, that's special. I mean, it's like all moms need to be encouraged, right? And that's super encouraging.
Oh, it's hugely encouraging because there are times that I was like, well, I'm just going to shut up and not say stuff. My walk with my girls is different now than it was then.
Sure.
There was the walking alongside and then walking, or walking, leading them and then walking alongside.
Yeah.
And now it being different. But it's good that, like, I know that when the Lord puts on my heart that I need to say something, then I do need to say something. And I just not be fear of man or people pleasing, waiting for my girls to be happy, which I've taught my girls not to do. And that's one of my things that I struggle with and I pray about is, I have a prime example on that one that I had to go back and apologize to my daughter about.
Yeah.
So.
But that's important. I mean, that's what we have to do. I think I said once, I've never had to seek forgiveness and reconciliation more in any relationship than my kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like
100%.
I mean, yeah, you just, I mean, then that's life. Like you say or do something that later on you reflect, you're like, oh, that was not the way to go. You seek forgiveness and like you repent and reconcile and you move on, right? Like that's, and that's good modeling for them because that's what they're going to have to do. Right? Like, so.
That's huge.
Yeah,
because
it
if
is
not,
huge.
and the first time they have an issue, then they're going to think, oh my gosh, my mom was great. And now I've screwed up. And she never screwed up. She never made a mistake.
Yeah.
And then they think they've bombed
Or they know you've made a mistake, but you've never been honest about it. So that's even worse, right?
Correct.
Like they're smart. Like they, no one knows you more than your family does.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest challenges you think with launching both your girls looking back?
Definitely control.
Okay. That's a good one.
I had things, that I would do different, but definitely control and like wanting. I had things happen. What we've talked about, like I had a past of like bringing junk into life, of living in an orphanage and things like that, and so not.
You say that so flippantly, but okay.
But recognizing that I didn't have control then, and so I think, well, I'm going to make it all good. So then I try to make it okay, so that they'll have their own pitfalls, but not mine. But I needed to not be like that. And I actually started to recognize that when they were in about middle school, that my helicopter parenting was not beneficial.
Sure.
And so I started to change then. I didn't nip it in the bud, but I started changing them myself. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I think that was a huge pitfall because, again, if I could help them by just telling them what to do, rather than going, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't a good decision. Now I know. And now I can apply that to other things. Well, mom just told me.
I know. I deal with the same thing of like, you're not letting them fail. You're not letting them figure it out. Why aren't you letting them figure it out yourself? You had to figure it out yourself.
Correct.
I don't know. There's just something, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for moms, I think.
It is. And again, we're all broken vessels and the Lord uses it. And I thank God that he fixes it along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that you've launched both girls, they're both excelling in college. Do you have any helpful tips for moms who are starting that process of like, what would make it easier or better? Can you think of anything?
Things I think about are just, it starts so much before you drop them off.
Oh, that's good.
Like I can remember them being little and praying over them while I was rocking them for their spouses, for their jobs, for me and how I'd navigate. And then as I get older, just talking with them and modeling my mistakes, doing stuff, mistakes and stuff. Just going through and being intentional. I think I'm very good at being nonstop. Because if I'm slow, I start to think about too many things.
Okay.
So if I cram a whole lot going on at one time, then I don't have to overthink things. So then it doesn't bother me. So I think slowing down. I really wish I'd have done family devotions. Okay. I say that because I'm a youth leader with high school girls. I was with middle school, and then overall it's been about 7 years. Okay. And so I've been with high school probably the last 5-6 years. no, that's right, 5 years. And with that, I can see what mistakes I've made with my girls. And then I can see where families, where some of the girls have a little bit of grounded head on them a little bit better. And I always thought, well, they need soccer for exercise, and they need piano, and they need horseback riding. I mean, we were doing like 3 things outside of school for each girl.
Sure.
Going and truly the one thing I've looked back at now and gone, okay, all of that was great, but the one thing they'll have when they're 40 is a relationship with Christ. Did I do enough? Like, there's never enough, but did I truly go, okay, instead of like, and I'm not saying pull soccer. That is not my conversation, because I have these conversations, but it's being so intentional. Like, do we sit and watch alone one night? Like we all sit and watch television. That was our family time. Do we just turn it off and do a Bible study? And I don't mean that it has to be this deep theological, like to figure out, but are we talking about God and our relationship and what it is to them, so that it's not their relationship with God because they're being obedient to me?
Yeah. And so that's one thing that I have found, as the kids get older, have they embraced their walk with Christ, their faith, as their own, or is it still they do it because it's ours, because it's the parents, right? So that's something that's hard to watch, and it's something that you just have to let it unfold and pray that, the Psalm says, Psalm or Proverb, I can't remember. When you train a child up, they'll not.
Correct.
Right. So
they'll come back. And it is, and I know that I'm realizing now a lot of the stuff that I was doing when it didn't feel right or whatnot is, meaning not that it didn't feel right, but that my kids would bump it or whatnot, that I was being obedient to God.
Yeah.
Like, I needed to make sure that I was being obedient to him. There's a lot of leeway in the truths in Scripture.
Because then you can be legalistic in that too.
Oh, hugely. Yeah. I mean, it's like the Lord will tell us how to navigate life, but he doesn't tell me to buy the greenhouse or the blue house. Right. He tells me what to do with my money.
That's not what matters, right?
No. But he tells me how to handle my money. It tells me how to handle my relationship with my husband. What may look at our future, and then that's maybe would peel into how we buy a house. So there are truths. So
But know that that grace covers that for sure, right? Like,
hugely.
I think especially as moms, we take so much guilt and shame and regret, and I think we just take so much of that on ourselves, and in a way that's unhealthy, unfair, and maybe kind of almost arrogant, that we have that much control over how our kids turn out, right? Yes. Like, if you think of it that way, like it's imbalanced, like that we had to do everything 100% correct for them to be. That's not true.
No,
they are their own person, right?
Correct.
And God has a plan for them in the womb. So.
Oh yeah, despite us. It's funny. At my mom's funeral, and my mom had a lot of flawed things, and one of the things I said is, I'm so thankful that she was so flawed, because there were so many decisions, like putting us in an orphanage for 1.5 years, like walking away from us, that the Lord used. Yeah. And at the time, he had no clue to understanding it, but God seeing way down in the future of how it would mold my life and how it would change how I approach things and things like that. So, yeah.
Grace covers, for sure.
Hugely.
For sure. So you truly are, so Austin and I are entering the emptiness stage. Our youngest is going to school in the fall. Our oldest went to school, came back, so he's living here again. So, but we are still in that emptiness kind of framework. So, so what are some aspects of life that have been the most impacted from transitioning to emptiness, do you think? What are some things that you've really noticed an impact?
Oh, my marriage.
Your marriage. In what way?
So that is one thing I would say definitely on that other comment when you said, what are some things as far as to tell parents ahead of time? Keep your marriage strong. That's good. I lost that along the way. Always loved my husband. That never changed. I always was doing things for him and things like that. But my focus became my children, because they needed me. my husband didn't need me. Well, he didn't, he works and he's self-sufficient. He's a strong man.
Yeah.
And my girls didn't. They needed me to help them and help make decisions and things like that. And so it's, to keep that marriage strong, because everybody would say that and I'd be like, yeah, we're fine. And then the girls are leaving and I'm looking at him going, who are you?
So is that how it's kind of played out since the girls have left?
It has, because he kept, in the beginning, I really struggled because he kept doing what he was always doing. He would always work. He'd go play golf. He never changed what he was doing. The things that I always did with my girls, well, they left. And then I really don't have a large group of lady friends that I do things with.
Yeah.
There's a few, but I don't go off and do group girl weekends and things like that. And so suddenly I was like, well, now what do I do? Yeah. And at that time I didn't like being alone. I've learned to be alone now. But I was like, wait, so I'm reconnecting with Jake and saying, hey, I'm the one that kind of stepped away. I want to grow this again. And again, it's not that we ever were apart. It just was, we didn't do things together.
Yeah.
We are in the same house and we're talking and doing stuff, but like intentionally, like the other night we went to dinner with another couple and the other couple was talking about they're doing dance lessons. And I'm like, oh, and I would have thought, I probably would have invited one of my girls to go dance, like do dance lessons. Mm-hmm. Like we've enjoyed that. But I'm like, oh, actually that'd be fun with Jake. Or like I wanted to go to the movie the other day and I would have never thought of Jake. I would have gone because, he'd come away from work. Oh, the girls. And I was like, maybe he wouldn't mind sitting through this movie. And he's like, no, I don't mind it at all. He ended up loving the movie. And it was a movie, Unsung Hero. It's the one for King and Country.
Oh, yeah.
About their life and their story and how the Lord worked in their life. And I thought he would have been like, he enjoyed it. So it's just these little sweet things that I'm like, who are you?
That's really interesting that you say that you stepped away. I find that fascinating. I don't know if people, I don't know if wives can be that honest with themselves of like, no, my focus became my kids. And then, and then I woke up and I'm like, oh, it's just us two. I don't know if I know you. Like, who are you? Like, what do you like?
I know, but that's exactly it.
Yeah. That's interesting. Cause honestly, if you think of how old were you when you got married?
26.
Think of who you are at 26 and who you are now.
Totally
not even totally different, right? And so the same would kind of go for him too, the expectation. And if you're not, Austin and I talk about this all the time, if you're not like going through those seasons together, growing together, changing together, then you really do become not strangers, but like side by side roommates instead of face to face spouses.
It's exactly the words that we used. We're roommates,
right?
Just going along. I could tell you the little things that I knew from back when that he liked or what made him uncomfortable and things, but like just knowing what makes him joyful. When I probably need to settle back and allow him some quiet. When he would totally open up and me telling him all about my day, like just knowing about that. So yeah, I've prayed about that a lot, and just that the Lord, heal to where we're more of a marriage, of a couple, than just walking side by side. Because we have a long time. I mean, we're 50. I'm 55. Like
Lord willing, you have a whole nother life to live.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's me and him. Mm-hmm. He and I. Oh, I can't like grammar. Duval County education. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
That's why my kids are in St. John's. No, I'm joking.
That's funny.
But yeah.
So have you discovered any fun new hobbies or desires that you like started to pursue? Oh, you said reading.
Yeah, for me, it's been reading. We've been doing hiking stuff.
That's fun. So is that something you two are doing together?
Yes, we're hiking together. He's actually taken it to an extreme. He's now starting to do Appalachian Trail. So he's done like 5 days on the trail with some guys.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
He asked me if I wanted to go. And I'm like, oh, I can see this the first day. Me going, look at the trees. Look at the birds. And he'd go, like exhibit, because he's really quiet. So I don't want to ruin that for him. So in that to say, but we do local, like Guana Park, off of Bartram Springs Park Road, I think. There's a great one.
I think we've done that one. Yeah.
Oh, there are so many like areas that you literally. Where did we go the other day? I literally felt like I was out of town. Oh, we went and did the walk over the Acosta Bridge. So for the RAM, the
I don't even know where
River
that is.
Arts Market, so the
Yeah.
Riverside Arts Market on Saturdays is under either the Costa or the Fuller Warren. They have put a walkable bridge right next to it.
Really?
And there's a whole circuit with some murals that are absolutely beautiful. I literally felt like I was out of town. It's like a 2 to 3 mile walk.
You're going to have to tell me where that is because I would love to do that.
And I love farmers markets.
You do?
And my husband, I love him because he will walk with me through them. He's like, I thought they're to get vegetables. And I'm like, no, it's for this earrings. Yes. So I really love our walks because then we get to talk.
And does he talk? Does he engage?
He does.
Yeah.
Because he's not a talker. He talks a lot for work and he has to listen a lot for work.
Mm.
So he's not always so readily for that. But in our walks, it's like, when you're in the car with the kids, you think that it's really hard to drive them wherever they need to go. But that's the time they open up.
Yeah. And for me, 100%. So the best time that our kids talked to us was at night in the dark when we were tucking them in.
Yes.
And in the car. And I really think it's because they don't have eye contact with us. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel, and it was almost like it was easier for them, not as vulnerable to talk about hard things.
Correct.
And they didn't have to see our eyes. And same in the dark. Like, there's just something about, and there's something about if you both like nature, it's just like a natural organic process of just like chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's fun. So now that you both are empty nesters, now it's fun that you can actually maybe plan trips on hiking or something like that. So that's where like fun things kind of happen. Like when Austin and I went to Alaska to celebrate our 20th, we both loved to hike. And that was just part of the reason why we wanted to go to Alaska was for the hiking and for the nature and stuff like that. So now you can plan fun trips with that kind of stuff in mind.
Yeah. We were just looking at Montana.
Is
that right? They
so
have
beautiful.
A hike one and a golf cart one that you drive through these caverns.
Oh, cool.
And you drive the golf cart, but then you get off and then you hike for a while and you get back. So just really cool. I'm like, oh, we could just go a weekend.
Yeah. There's so many things that open up once you like become aware of it when your kids are gone that you're like, oh, we can just do that for the weekend.
Yes.
Like, it's really fun.
It is. And I'm just now getting into that. Like in this past year. It's been a hard process to think through because in the beginning I had a hard time enjoying anything without my girls. Mm-hmm. I don't always enjoy things for myself. I enjoy it through somebody else.
Okay.
So I have a hard time, like for me to go for a walk on a nature trail, it would drive me crazy. Let me just take a picture and then I'd send it. Like I don't know that I get the joy in that moment. I have to send it to my girls.
So you're not present. Do you feel like you're not present?
I don't know. Like I'm enjoying what I see, but like I have to talk. I don't know. That's a really good one. I have to think about that. But so now I find that I'm enjoying things better. I'm learning. And I can enjoy it with my husband. Uh-huh. But also just, maybe you're right. I have to think about that. Maybe being more present.
Because I wonder, so listening to you talk about how you don't like to be quiet or alone because you have to like, now then you're really thinking about like what's going on and your head talk, like all that kind of stuff. So I wonder if that's part of it. It's like the stillness to be still sometimes is much, much harder. Oh, because it's like taking stock of who you are, where you are, kids, all the things, right? And it's the trust too. Be still and know that I'm Lord. Like that's where the trust comes in, right? But if you keep yourself busy, you don't really have to trust. You don't really have to engage. You don't have to, right? Like,
oh, that's huge. I've got that on my wall in my house. And it's funny, somebody had asked me if, as a physical therapist, if I had ever had a massage. And I'm like, well, I've only had like 2 massages in my life. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because I literally cannot be still in my own head. Because the 2 times that I've done it, I've bawled my eyes out.
And maybe that's therapeutic. Maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's good.
Yes. But you're right, though. That's why I say I'm learning to be okay by myself. And I don't mean separate from my husband.
No, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
My mom lived her life alone. She didn't need people. She was never with friends. And so I think I've always thought I need to have people. But the busy I am, I don't have to deal and I don't have to trust.
Yeah.
And trust has always been a really good book. Trusting God, Jerry Bridges.
Oh, yeah, that is a good book.
Like, rocked my world on trust because I have trust issues.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think we all do on some
flawed.
levels. Yeah,
So,
I think we all
yes.
do. I mean, who doesn't have trust issues?
Yeah.
So what do in the second act of how do you feel you've changed or grown in the second act of your life or entering into the second act of your life? Like, is there ways that you feel of like in your job or your interest, faith, family, health? Is there ways that you're like, oh, I really feel like I've changed or grown or matured or?
Definitely in my spiritual life, and in my prayer life, and in that trust. Because being such a control freak, I'd always feel like I'd have to prep or fix something prior to prevent from something happening. And I am getting so much better so example, kids go to college. I have them both on Life 360. And the way that I've set it up is that it dings at their dorm.
Okay.
So that when they're going in and out of it, one has an apartment, one has a dorm. If they're going in and out during the day, I hear it dinging and I know that they're moving. So if there's a day I don't hear dinging, I get worried, and I'll just check it. But when they first left, it literally was like, okay, that doesn't look like Burger King. There's something nearby. I don't want her to be there. And I would just happily just, oh, hey, send a text. And that became all consuming.
Yeah.
And
then they probably were like, Mom.
Oh, yeah.
Like, get off, right? Like,
oh, yes.
Yeah.
And now I don't look at it. I can allow them to go through their day and do stuff and not be overly worried because I become consumed with what they're not doing right.
And then that's all you're going to think about because you're not there. So you have no control. So then you're worrying about something that you have no control over.
No, and that's not my job.
And that's hurting a relationship if you're constantly like, why are you here? Why are you there? Why are you with this? Like, correct. Yeah, it's hard. No, it's hard.
So that's something that the Lord has truly been so sweet to me because he could have just taken the book and gone, and but the fact that he has allowed me to go, okay, my girls he's grooming them, he's molding them, and he wants them to make some mistakes. And I'm here to help them when they want it. And if not, it's what his intention. That somebody had said this, and I've heard this so much, and it didn't how you hear things your whole life about things, and you go, yeah, that's really, really great. Until you hit the season of life, but talking about how they're not mine. Yeah. Like I sat and I always say, how can the Lord give me my girls to mold for 18 years? I do everything with them. And I dress them and I mold them and I tell them not to do things and I praise them. And then suddenly I'm supposed to step back. Yeah. But because he is molding them into what he wants and they were never mine. But I was clinging so tightly that's good. That I couldn't see past that.
That's good.
Of course, hindsight.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, seen that a little
there's
more
no
clearly.
way to know. It's so hard to know that as you're going through it, right? That's when you really see is when you start looking back and have like self-reflection and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what that means. That's what that looks like. That's what that feels like. Like, I think it's hard to be that self-aware, right?
Oh, yeah. And some people, I do have friends who had that grasp from the beginning because they had the right mind of who Christ was. And I think within themselves, they had a better head dialogue going on. Maybe they had a better upbringing and secure in that they didn't need their kids. Do you know what I mean?
So that's actually so good that you just said that. Because I feel like, we bring our own baggage to the marriage and then we bring our own baggage to kids, right?
100%.
So if we haven't processed our own story, that story is going to filter in, good or bad, into the lives that the Lord has placed in you to care for and whatever, so relationships, whatever. So yeah, it's you parent out of your own story sometimes, and that can be good and that cannot be good, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's life. Like that's where you need to focus. It's not selfish to practice self-care, right?
Oh, correct.
And I feel like moms, we struggle with that of like the self-care aspect of, giving time to ourselves or whatever that looks like, whatever that is important, whatever fills us. I think we all kind of struggle with feeling selfish in the self-care, but I mean, I can 100% say that I am a better mom when I have time to myself first or whatever, right? However that looks. I'm a much better mom. I'm less selfish, I'm less bitter, less resentful, like all those things that can pop up that you don't even necessarily mean to, when you just haven't given yourself space or time or relief or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where processing your own story, like, I'm a big believer in therapy.
Oh yeah, I did therapy from 13 years
Yeah.
old on, and I remember the doctor who treated me all that time, which was great because he treated my mom and he treated my sister. Never shared stuff, but he at least had insight.
Wow, that's hard. That would be hard. I would think that would be great and hard for him.
Oh, as a therapist,
Yes.
I'd be like, your mom, oh, put that back. But at least he could see when I said I was struggling about something and had no idea it was because of the way I was raised or this episode or thing that happened to me that I wasn't ready to reveal, but yet he could navigate through and help. And he was a Christian therapist, although I wish there would have been biblical counseling. But he made the comment that when I talked about why do I struggle with certain things, and he's like, if somebody else was raised the same way as you, had the same situations as you, they would have made similar decisions in those. So, just did tell me that everything that I did was okay, but he was just talking about, when you, like you said, if you don't deal with the trauma and you don't recognize stuff that you've been through, it does influence it. It doesn't mean that you have to stay there. I've always talked about you have to pick up your big girl pants, because I can't go, well, you know what? I stink as a parent and a wife because I lived in an orphanage and my mom was a single parent, and
then I think
you don't get to do that.
In all things that explains and it doesn't excuse, right? Like
that's exactly it.
So that's a good way to
That's very good.
It's a good way to recognize that it has a huge influence in how you handle relationships and all that kind of stuff. It explains it. It doesn't excuse whatever behavior comes out of that, right? I say that all the time. So I have two men in my life with severe ADHD, not severe, with ADHD. And, there's really, really, really good things that come with that. And there's some really, really challenging things. And some of the challenging things, I try not to allow it to be used as an excuse. It explains why you struggle with X, Y, and Z. It does not excuse the pain. There's ways that we can help that or fix that.
Oh yeah.
And you could say that about everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I always, because I used to be a therapist. I was a therapist for 20 years. One of the things that I think is amazing about you is that you're still treating as a therapist. I think therapy is a young man's game.
Physical therapy.
Yes. Oh. And even with, occupational therapy, things like that, once you get 20 plus years into it, typically you either retire or you do more managerial kind of stuff. Correct. You're not actually physically treating every single day. The fact that you physically treat people every day, I can't believe that your body is still letting you do that. It's hard on the body.
Oh, it's very hard. I used to always say it was either going to be my hands or my mind that was going to take me out of the business, that I couldn't do manipulations or things like that. And it's been wonderful because through the years, there's so many tools that have come up, cupping and A-stem. So I have ways that I can save my hands with certain things. And then I always thought that either that or dementia, forgetting, but that hasn't hit me. Well, it hits me in the other periods of my life, but not with PT. But I love what I do, and I think the Lord all the time that Jake has a job that's secure that allows me to work part-time.
Yeah,
and I think that's another big thing that I think if I was full-time from get-go on, I think the stress levels would have put me into adrenal fatigue, and that also clouds head and thought processes and stuff like that. So. God's been very kind to allow me to work part-time, although my 11-hour shifts are long, but
11-hour shifts. My goodness.
I love.
You do?
I really do.
That's so great. I mean, any person who goes to therapy wants a therapist who loves what they do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I love talking with people. I love people's stories of what brings them in. And my favorite are the really, really mean patients, because they become the sweetest teddy bears. Meaning you really find out why they're so angry. It's either pain or they had something major happen in their life, or somebody at home is sick, or they're losing their capabilities and they don't want to lose their independence, and it's them being fearful rather than this angry elf.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy
So
it.
I when I was treating, predominantly, probably the last 5 to 10 years of my practice was geriatrics, was like short-term rehab kind of stuff. And it was my favorite. 100% it was my favorite. There was something special about, and especially where I was, it was a one-on-one and you had like usually an hour, right? So you had a lot of time to get to know these residents, and it was special. Like they were all talking about incredible experiences in their life, and you just really got to see like a little microcosm into a different generation. And
oh my god.
yeah, it was my favorite part. Honestly, that's really it's the only part of therapy I miss.
Oh yeah.
Is the relationships I had with my patients.
I love that. I do like I'm that person, because like my husband will go, can't you listen to a story and not ask 1,000 questions? But that's my PT mind. Someone comes in with a problem and I'm like, okay, well, does it do this? Does it do this?
Yeah.
Do this? So I love the stories. I love figuring out why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because we had a patient one time who said he was an astrophysicist, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. And I like completely was like, yeah, right. Well, I went home and looked him up. And he was helping with the trajectory of the Apollo. And he was like in his 80s when I saw him. And this was a long time ago. But I thought he was making stuff up, because he was like, I lived with all the astronauts in the neighborhood where they all lived. And he owned like miniature ponies, a miniature horse collection. Like, and I'm like,
oh, that's funny.
But just really, really cool. Just love cool things about people's lives.
So, do you have any, I don't know, words of wisdom or tips for women in the second act of their life that would be helpful? Do you think?
As a woman, not
yeah,
necessarily.
as a woman.
Make sure you have sweet friends.
No, that's sweet.
I did not invest a lot in that during the time when my girls were young. If I had a mom that had kids my kids' age, we would be doing things, but the moment that they weren't doing my groove, just meaning I didn't have enough time in my life. My husband's always had his friends, and I have friends like through my husband, but I didn't have a lot of, and I've grown older. I've realized how much I've needed them, because I always wanted to navigate it by myself. I didn't want anybody's help.
Yeah,
I'll pray about it, but
I'm a firm believer women need women.
And I used to think that my husband would be that person for me, because I got married and my mom was never married. Well, my mom was married, but never, she was divorced.
Sure.
So I didn't see that. And my mom didn't have friends she'd hang out with. So I thought, when I get married, my husband's going to listen to me and he's going to be my BFF and I don't need anybody else. And then I realized that's not what God intended my husband to be.
No, it's not fair for him. It's not fair for you. It's unrealistic.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he is not able to be what God alone is.
Correct.
Right.
So I had to look to God for everything.
Yeah.
But I realized there was a big purpose of having women in my life, Christian women. I have some friends that are not saved, but they're not my tucked to my bosom, tucked close to me.
Sure.
They are, again, I do love them, but like keeping friends and relationships, it's so sweet.
It is so sweet. You're right.
It's so sweet. That's and so awesome. Needed. And the Lord is, there's so many examples.
We're made to be relational beings.
Yes.
The Lord in his Trinity is perfect relationship, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. He has made us in his likeness and his image, and we're supposed to be in relationship with people, right? Like, we're not supposed to do the life alone. We're not supposed to live in isolation. It doesn't work.
And I thought that I would be looked at much better if I could handle it myself. My daughter had open heart surgery, and when we went to Atlanta, my husband and I went, and I said, I want anybody to go there. I want nobody to help us. And the Lord was sweet. He sent, we had family members, my husband's sister, my husband's brother, and a husband and wife that my husband's cousins, and they were amazing for us. And here I was like, I was angry, and then they were there, and I'm like, I thank God. I get out of your selfish pride, Natalie. As you see what the Lord has laid out, that you're not meant to walk this by yourself.
No, because there's an element of vulnerability that is required to do life alongside people, right? Yeah. And we don't always want that. No, we want to be known, but we don't necessarily want to be known, right?
So going back, I would definitely foster more relationships in the really deep times when I just kind of hung it by myself or talked to my husband or just prayed about it, which that's ultimately but again, that's not how we're meant to do things.
Yeah.
So yeah, just sweet friendships.
That's good. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying yes to this.
I think you're amazing. I know this is your show, but I'm just saying, I think you're amazing. And something that I love is that you and I have known each other through a long time, and you and I will have different conversations, and I will see you somewhere and we will both scream at the top of our lungs and say, hey, like, and pick up like we've never lost time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that part of
I do too. I appreciate that a lot.
So thank you. That's a gift.
You're welcome.
So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.